everybody, it's Chris, and I've been looking at Heroes of Faerun, I've been looking at the subclasses, and it is time to look at the Scion of the Three, which is a rogue subclass, or the rogue subclass in that book. Not thrilled with this one, gotta be honest, just starting off, but I'm going to go through their features and explain why I have the opinion I do about them, and we'll go through the features one at a time and just really analyze them, and we'll compare them to what other classes or subclasses can do, as well as the playtest version of this subclass could do. So, the Scion of the Three says, become a gruesome agent of malice. A Scion of the Three draws power from a group of malevolent gods known as in Baldur's Gate as the Dead Three. Bane, a god of tyranny, Baal, a god of violence and murder, and Myrkul, a god of death. While some rogues of this subclass pledge themselves ardently to those three macabre gods, others are thrust on this path by a curse. Either way, a Scion's power manifests as various occult gifts, as well as an uncanny talent for striking and terrifying foes. Scions of the Three are most common in Baldur's Gate, where the Dead Three lived as mortals before ascending to godhood. Underground cults, the Bane, Baal, and Myrkul often count Scions of the Three among their most useful agents. Outside of Baldur's Gate, secular thieves guilds such as the Shadow Thieves of Am or the Xanathar Guild in Waterdeep might call on a Scion of the Three to undertake an especially violent contract. So they basically are like assassins that are, their powers are fueled by the power of these three gods. And we're going to go through the features starting at level 3. We begin with 2 features. This is pretty normal for a rogue subclass to start with 2 features at level 3. Usually one is more of the primary feature and one is more of the secondary feature, and that is the case here as well. So we begin with Bloodthirst, and the text in white is what is published in the book, and the yellow text are my notes. So we begin with Bloodthirst. When an enemy you can see within 30 feet of yourself takes damage and is bloodied after taking that damage, but not killed outright, you can take a reaction and teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within 5 feet of that enemy. You can then make 1 melee attack. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Now, this being the primary feature at level 3 means that when you make this subclass, you're going to be a melee character. And that's okay. You can do melee rogues. A lot of rogues are ranged, and a lot of rogues can go back and forth between ranged and melee. And this one could too, but their feature is only really supporting melee. And this feature got a big change from the playtest version. In the playtest version, your sneak attack did extra damage equal to half your rogue level to bloodied creatures, just period. And if an enemy you could see was reduced to 0 hit points, you could use a reaction to teleport up to 30 feet and make a melee attack. The extra damage for sneak attack always occurred if the creature was bloodied, but the reaction was limited by your intelligence modifier. So this is a major redesign from the playtest version. It's now limited in use like the entire feature is, and the reaction is activated by a creature within 30 feet of you being bloodied. And then you teleport next to the bloodied creature and you make your attack, which will often be a sneak attack. I think mechanically, this is obviously weaker. Thematically, I actually like it more. I have this vision of the party paladin or fighter or whatever taking on an enemy, they bloody them, and then suddenly the enemy just crumples in front of them, falling dead. And what they see behind them is the Scion standing with a bloody dagger with a smile that says, "I stole your kill." Love that. But the number of uses here, intelligence modifier per long rest, is a huge problem. I mean, even if you make a rogue that has a good intelligence, you're not starting with more than 3 uses per long rest. And you can make a rogue that would eventually have an 18 or 20 intelligence if you make like a True Strike build. But there is a lack of synergy here with a True Strike build, since the reaction attack from this feature can't be a True Strike, meaning you're working off a lower dexterity score for the feature, even if you can use it once or twice more often. And even if this feature was based on dexterity, so the uses were dexterity modifier times per long rest, that still doesn't feel like enough uses. If this feature recovered a use after a short rest, that would really go a long way. Now, there is such a feature gained at level 17, but it should have been right here at level 3 as part of the base feature. I think this feature is still going to be fun, but it is not usable enough times to be worthy of your primary level 3 feature. It's weak. Our second level 3 feature is our secondary feature. You choose one of the dead 3, Bane, Ball, or Merkle. You gain resistance to one type of damage and the ability to cast a cantrip, as detailed in the table below. Intelligence is your spellcasting ability for this cantrip, and when you finish a long rest, you can change your choice. And we have Bane, Ball, and Merkle, Psychic, Poison, Necrotic, Minor Illusion, Blade Ward, Chill Touch. And just remember, you can pick any of these, and if you don't like your selection, you can change it the next day. Or if you're going into a situation where you're expecting to be facing necrotic damage, then you can switch to necrotic damage after your long rest. So, like I said, this is the secondary third level feature. It is not nearly powerful enough to count as a main feature. But as a secondary feature, it's fine. The cantrip is more of a ribbon, but a damage resistance is okay. The suite we get through Ball is the one I would tend to gravitate to. Poison damage and Blade Ward. Poison is probably as much or more common a damage type than the other two, and a rogue would really benefit from a Blade Ward cantrip. The balance between these three options isn't perfect for sure. I mean, what rogue even wants Chill Touch? I don't see casting it at all as a rogue. But it's not unbalanced to the point where I think it's a real problem. They've given you the ability to switch between the three, and even, the lousy Chill Touch option gives you necrotic resistance, and you might need that sometimes. So I think this is fine as a secondary feature. So the secondary feature isn't the problem. It's the primary feature that's the problem at level 3, and this subclass starts out of the gate weak. It really needs a boost after level 3 to be back in the game. At level 9, we get Strike Fear, and we gain the following Cunning Strike option. So this means that when we deliver a sneak attack, we can choose to do this, and our sneak attack does 1d6 less damage, but we get this extra effect, which is Terrify. The target must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw, or it has the Frightened condition for 1 minute. While the target is frightened in this way, you have advantage on attack rolls against the target. The frightened target repeats the save at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. And this feature was similar in the playtest, but it was modified slightly and improved. Here you have advantage on attack rolls against the frightened target. That wasn't there before. With a feature like this, there is of course the issue that as you gain levels, creatures immune to the frightened condition become more and more common. But if your enemy isn't immune, I think this effect is worth the 1d6 damage. I would probably try it regularly if creatures are not immune to frightened, depending whether I'm just trying to finish them off or I'm expecting them to actually suffer the frightened condition for a significant amount of time. I would not call this a high tier feature though. If I compare it to, say, what the Soul Knife gets at level 9, I don't think it's nearly as good. But it's not bad. I'd say this is middle of the road. Now, it is really disappointing to get a middle of the road feature considering where we were at level 3, but at least we haven't lost ground yet because we're going to get to level 13. Aura of Malevolence. You radiate malignant power associated with one of the dead 3. When you use Bloodthirst and Teleport, each creature of your choice within 10 feet of either the space you left or your destination space, your choice, take damage equal to your intelligence modifier. The damage type is the same as the damage resistance granted by your choice in the Dread Allegiance feature, and damage caused by this feature ignores resistance, which is good. There's no saving throw to have the damage, which is good too. This feature was entirely redesigned from the playtest, which gave the rogue a 10-foot emanation that did a tiny bit of damage, the same damage that this does, to enemies within the emanation at the start of the rogue's turn, and that was every turn, no limited uses. Now, that tiny bit of damage occurs to creatures within 10 feet of you when you use Bloodthirst, or 10 feet of the space you teleport to when you use Bloodthirst. This is now terrible. This is very bad. I'm not even sure it was great before because the damage was really low, but now it ends up having the same use restriction as Bloodthirst, which, as we already discussed, is way too limited. So 3 to maybe 5, but probably 3 times per long rest, you're using this and doing 3 to 5, but probably 3 points of damage, very possibly to a single target. That's weak. And so we have a subclass that was already in trouble. And then this is a kick in the teeth. And that brings us to level 17. Dread Incarnate. You gain the following benefits. Cutthroat. You regain 1 expended use of Bloodthirst when you finish a short rest. I mean, level 17. Come on. And Murderous Intent. When you roll your sneak attack damage, you treat a roll of 1 or 2 on the die as a 3. So the playtest version was a little bit different. Instead of Cutthroat, you had advantage on attacks against frightened creatures, which I think in this published version was partially absorbed into their level 9 feature because you have advantage on the creatures you frighten with that feature alone. But Murderous Intent was the same in the playtest version. So first off, if you read Murderous Intent and think I'm going to do a whole bunch more sneak attack damage, just be aware that Murderous Intent changes the average roll on your d6 from a 3.5 to a 4. Basically, your 6 possible die type results become 3, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, totaling 24. Divide that by 6. That means your average result on that d6 is 4. That is an increase of 0.5 damage on average per die of sneak attack. With 96 sneak attack, that means on average, your sneak attack is going to do 4.5 more damage. If you score a critical, 9 points. And that's not bad. Actually, that's not bad. But it's not super powerful. I'll take another 4.5 points of damage on my sneak attack, considering I'm probably delivering sneak attack at least most turns. Sometimes I might miss and not deliver any damage. But most turns a rogue has, they're going to hit and they're going to have sneak attack. And so we'll get that 4.5 more often than not. And that's okay. But Cutthroat, it's so much later than it should have been. It should have been part of the level 3 feature. By level 17, we should have another feature giving us even more uses. Like, we should be able to refresh all our uses once per long rest when we roll initiative, or something like that, instead of giving us this thing that we should have had all along. So, level 17 is not bad. It's not bad. Murderous Intent is okay. Cutthroat, I mean, it's still okay. It's just way too little and too late. And at the start of every playtest, they show us this. This is a cut and paste directly from the playtest this came out in. But it's the same in every Unearthed Arcana. And it says, power level. This is right at the start of the Unearthed Arcanas. Power level. The character options you read here might be more or less powerful than the options in the 2024 Player's Handbook. If a design survives playtesting, we adjust its power to the desirable level before publication. This means an option could be more or less powerful in its final form. And just to remind you, the level 3 feature in its final form is weaker than the playtest version. The level 13 feature in its final form is weaker than the playtest version. So considering that the Scion was not considered too powerful in the playtest version, and a lot of people considered it underpowered, and I don't remember anyone saying, oh, this is too powerful, I hope they tone it down. Like, nobody was saying that. Then why is the published version weaker? I do not get it. Like, with a Banneret, which was weak, at least I can look and go, well, you know what? In the playtest, they had a completely different version, so the one they published never really got public feedback. So I can kind of get that. But here, they had feedback. Nobody, I find it really hard to believe that they were getting feedback that it was too powerful. And that means that they went into the design phase and thought, okay, well, we need to redesign a couple of these features because they're a little awkward or whatever. Let's make this weaker. Let's go ahead and nerf it. We're going to take the level 3 feature and we're going to make it so the whole thing is barely usable. And then we'll tie the level 13 feature to those number of uses, so it's barely usable too. How did that happen? But anyway, to sum up, this subclass gets a primary feature at level 3 that will probably be fun when you use it. Like, I actually like the ability, but it is way too limited in use. Then at level 13, we get another feature that suffers from the same limitation. And there is nothing here at level 9 or 17 to compensate for those bad levels. So this is, in my opinion, just a weak subclass. I would not recommend it if you're playing a rogue that you want to feel effective. And rogues are on the weaker side already, so they really need to be supported with strong, effective subclasses, and this is not one of them. And I don't think many players are even going to bother to try this. So this would probably be the last time I talk about this subclass, because I'm never going to use it, and that's too bad. But in my next video, I am going to be covering the Spellfire Sorcerer, and I hope you will join me. Otherwise, until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.